Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about personal statements. Now, personal statements are a very important part of applying for a scholarship, for an internship, for a study abroad program, maybe even for a whole new degree program. And so in today's presentation, part one, we'll be looking at brainstorming and preparing an outline for your personal statement. Here's an overview of this presentation. We'll be looking at what is a personal statement, what should I include in my personal statement, and how do I brainstorm and plan to generate ideas for my statement? Well, first and most important question is, what is a personal statement? Well, it's a kind of written document that has a few main purposes. The first thing that it does is that it tells the panel, the people who are reading your application, a little bit about you, about your goals, how the program will help you, and just as importantly, it tells them why you are a strong candidate, why you should get that internship, why you should get that scholarship. And it is very important to keep in mind that the reviewers of an application will have some very specific things that they're looking for. And so if guidelines are provided, you really need to read those carefully and follow them very carefully. Let's look at an example of a prompt for a personal statement. This is from the CityU President's Scholarship and HK Tech Scholarships from 2022. Please tell us why you should be considered for the President's Scholarship and HK Tech Scholarships in areas such as intellect, leadership, character, aspiration, and passion. How will the scholarship enable you to acquire the skills and opportunities that help to fulfill your goals? Well, there are a lot of very important words in that prompt. First of all, there's why. What exactly makes you a good candidate for this scholarship? And then there are these words like intellect, leadership, character, aspiration, passion. And so what you need to do is you think, how do I take those concept words like intellect, like leadership, and how do I turn those into specific things that I can describe about myself? So, for example, intellect. Well, what does that mean in practical terms? Well, it could mean academic excellence. Talk about what you have achieved as a student. Leadership. How have you shown leadership in your work experience or in your involvement in student organizations? Character. What are some specific things about your personality, about your soft skills? Then aspiration, passion. Well, that's probably going to mean, what are you hoping to achieve? What are your goals? So when it comes time to start brainstorming, start planning, you need to think about, how do I turn academic excellence, for example, into a description of me and what I've done? Well, you can start by saying, I'm a third-year student of mechanical engineering at City University. I have a cumulative GPA of 3.7 out of a possible 4.3. I've been on the Dean's List. I've taken part in a university debate competition. Okay, so it's very specific and it's very personal to what you have done and what you can do. Now, in general, when you're planning and brainstorming and making your mind maps, it's important to remember to include specific examples under every category you're going to write about. Also, what do you learn from your experience? As far as possible, quantify your achievements. So, for example, 3.7 out of 4, that's a very specific GPA score. Second place in a debating competition, and so on and so on. Some things to avoid. We don't want vague statements. We don't want anything negative. We don't want anything unrelated. And we don't really want to see what other people have achieved. This personal statement is personal. It's what you have achieved and what you can achieve. So, for example, here's a kind of vague statement. I received good grades. Well, what are the reviewers going to ask themselves? They're going to ask, what do you mean? What's a good grade? Well, much better if you can say, I received a cumulative GPA of 3.7. Okay? Being on the Dean's List, that's already specific. That's exactly the kind of thing you should include. So, in this case, the achievement has been quantified. And also it's been justified, it's been kind of elaborated. So because this applicant, because you had that GPA of 3.7, it meant you were nominated for the Dean's List. So in order to wrap up, let's just go through a few of the things we've already talked about. You should always brainstorm, always make an outline before you write your complete personal statement document. As far as possible, you should quantify your achievements using numerical data, or in some cases it won't be numerical data, but it should be specific detail about you and the things you have achieved and the things that you hope to achieve. Make sure that everything is directly relevant to what the reviewers are going to want to know, what they're going to want to learn about you. And if you want more on personal statements, you can go to the Language Center's English Language Support Services online resources. There's the URL, and here under Writing, you will find Scholarship Personal Statements material. So, good luck in your writing of your personal statement, and join me for part 2 on personal statements.